Hi everybody, I'm Elisha Lye. I'm the tech lead, mobile tech lead in REA or realestate.com. So today I'm going to talk about learn from obvious bugs that can be easily missed. It's obvious, but it can be easily missed, all right? Okay, so first of all, let me show you something. See, observe these two screens. Which one has bug? Is it on the left or on the right?
Left.
Who said on the left? Raise your hand. Okay, who said on the right? Okay, about 50-50, right? And the rest is there's no bug, right? Well, so the one actually that has a bug is actually on the left. So you notice that this is not a rhinoceros. And of course, then the right one is it's all correct. Yeah, so it's a rhinoceros. It's actually a rhinoceros, right? Okay. So this is a very obvious bug to you. It's not obvious because it's probably obvious a little bit because you know all the animals. But if it's the name of persons that you don't know, you wouldn't have known it at all. But to the persons, they'll know it immediately. Right, you look at my name, this is not my face, right? So it's a very obvious bug that is easily missed because while you're testing, you probably will, you know it. So to know what causes these bugs, let's go on to a little bit of Android history. Just now someone asked about what is Jetpack Compose, right? So give you some history lessons. So in the beginning, the Android builds using something, we want to access the view, they use something called Find View by ID. Yeah, remember those old days, and you have to cast it. And later, Jake Wharton, Square, a company, came out with something called Butter Knife. It's Butter Knife. It's very, very good. Everybody like it. These are the days of Java. So, and Androids, Google came out with something called Data Binding. Not very popular, not very good. But anyway, they improved the Find View by ID. Instead of casting, they improved it a little bit. They should have done it in the early days, but they did it later. Anyway. Then Kotlin. This is the days of Kotlin. Everybody came out and people just love Kotlin synthetic. You just type the ID name, says you get it. You don't even need to find view by ID. And but there are some problems with that synthetic, so they're introducing something called view binding. So all these are good. And the latest technology, which was shared by Kathy, Jetpack Compose. All right. So if you ask what is Jetpack Compose, the latest and greatest, all right? But I'm going to share a little bit something before that, view binding and Scottish synthetic, okay? It's old, but it's still very useful, this knowledge. The good news is, or the bad news is, whoever they love Scottish synthetic is going to be discounted in end of this year. So if your code has Scottish synthetic, go back and refactor, okay? Or else end of this year, you probably will not be able to get to the latest version of Kotlin. So you probably expect that new Kotlin version 1.8 came out end of this year. So because of all these things, probably you have to go back and rework all of your views, Kotlin synthetics, and to use it view binding, right? Of course, if you can straight away go to Jetpack Compose, that's awesome, but there's going to be a lot more work to do that. So let's go to view binding. So let's check at what Google recommend, how we can do view binding. So first of all, you just need to, in your build creator, you just need to set view binding equals to true, you see. Then all XML layouts will be automatically bind and created the files while during compile. In fact, during syncing itself, it's already creating your XML files, creating a binding class object in which you can inflate it, which is awesome. And then they look at when we're using Fragment, Android, we're using fragments. So they give you an example code. They say, okay, cool. So this is example code. When you start off your view, you bind it, you create it, set it. Awesome. Use double bang, I don't know why, but anyway. And when during destroy, when you're destroying your view, set it to now. Awesome. No more memory leak. This is good. Very, very good. This is a good practice, right? This is Fragment. So let's get on to activity. This is the example that Google gave, right? That's when on create, binding. Awesome, we are still in binding. But why is it not setting to now? When we are creating a fragment, we are setting to now. When on activity, doesn't give an example of setting it now. So, well, what about view holder? So this is the third type of view in Android. So when we create a view holder, we probably can also use view binding, it's not a problem. But there's no example, so we kind of do it ourselves. Okay, let's bind it, that's nice. Then the question comes, should we set it to now? After that, will it cause memory leak? As if you know recycler view, your view does get detached and reused, right? So when the view get detached, shouldn't we set it to now? So there's this question. So according to best practices, everybody will say, probably Fragment is the best one. And maybe Google has forgotten to set now, okay? So probably let's try to set now. So, but let me explain why what the Fragment needs to be now and not the other two. All right, okay, Fragment. So whenever you have a fragment, right? So the first thing when a fragment when you create it, you bind your view. So this is your activity, the yellow color is a fragment, right? Once you bind your view, it's awesome. But at the same time, using the same fragment, you can replace, using the same activity, you can replace your fragment. Once the fragment is being replaced, the old fragment is not dead, it's still alive. But then the view is being destroyed. So in this case, when the view is being destroyed, the fragment is still alive. You see the fragments live through whether it's being destroyed or not. So this is the time where you don't need the view anymore. You probably want to set the view to now. So and when you pop back your previous fragment, go back to it, and then you get recreate again. So you want to recreate your fragment, your view again. So that's the reasons when we are creating a fragment, the view need to be created and bind and destroy when it's exiting, when the view is destroyed. So awesome. What about activity? So activity, we also have it on create, and then when we put on background, sometimes it get destroyed, right? So this assuming this is an activity, this should. So if we were ever to put on background, assuming it's not being killed, then it's going to be alive and the view is there, it's fine. But if the system is already out of memory or low in memory, it probably get killed. The good news is when activity got killed, it's different from previously. The fragments live throughout this entire cycle. While the activity got killed, everything got destroyed by itself. So the view is also got released itself. So we don't need to go and set it now anymore. And then when it get restored again, the activity got got recreated, and that's where the reason is. There is no need to set it now because your activity get killed, your view get removed. So whereas in fragments, the fragments still be alive, and then there'll be different views can be recreated at the same fragment. So it need to be reset and set. The next very interesting question, what about view holder? So if you know, in Android, there's a recycler view that we can recycle all the views. So we have recycled the first view. So when this view is out of the screen, so it get dropped out. So the thing is, even though it get dropped out, so when it's off the screen, this is on the screen, right? When it's off the screen, your view holder is still there. The view is still there, so it still get bind. So there's no need to get it to destroy. And then when it gets back to the screen, it gets reattached. So what's the bug? We talk about the bug right now. I'm telling you the whole story about all the theories. Let's get back to what about the bug? So this is where I'm going to talk about. When we have a custom view, what should we do? So I'm creating a custom view which is not really a view holder, which is not a fragment or activity, but it's contained inside a fragment or contained inside a view holder or contained inside activity. It's a custom view which I can leave anywhere. So I have a bunch of code where, when I'm binding the view, I just bind it using view binding. I have functions when it's on destroy, I can set it now, which is cool. So when I have this custom view, when I attach it to a fragment, so when my fragment get created, so what I will do is I will bind the custom view. I will create it. So when the fragment get destroyed, I'll release the custom view. I set it to now. Cool. So, but if the same view that we have is inside the view holder, when the view holder create it, so with the same thing, we'll bind it, we create it, we bind it, awesome. So, but when the view holder is being detached, so we have this tendency of thought, there's this function to release the view. So we'll do the same thing as we did in fragment. Let's release the view on detach. So that this is where the bug is. Because at this time, the view itself is not being destroyed, but we are just releasing the view. So when the view got released, well, it is not being destroyed. The second, when it gets updated again and again, it will not get refreshed. So that's where the panda becomes a rhinoceros. Okay, this explains the problem. All right. Yep, that's a summary of everything. Hope you learned something. So in summary, beginning this year, if you still have used Kotlin Synthetic, go back, change to view binding in your activity fragment and view holder. And when you're using a view binding in fragment, remember to set it now when on destroy. But if you are using a custom view, you have to release it depending on your container. If it's on fragment, remember to release it. On other things, don't just releasing it, okay? And the best thing is what Kathy shared, try to consider migrate to Jetpack Compose. Okay. All right. With that, talk about Jetpack Compose, a little bit of advertisements. So our company REA is hiring. So we are having Androids and iOS development, and we're using Kotlin and Swift, and of course, latest UI is Jetpack Compose and Swift UI. We're also using in our technology stack. So any one of you are interested in working and exploring this technology and working with us, feel free to come by, look for me, and we'd love to have a chat with you. All right, thank you very, very much.